Let's bring in Kevin Green, senior markets correspondent, right away to help set up the action today. All right, KG, let's get people started. So what do you think is going to set the tone today? I mean, I feel like, yes, we've made some progress. It seems like the needle is continuing to move forward on the government shutdown. But what sets the tone today?
Yeah, I mean, the government shutdown seems like it's really kind of priced in at the moment. There's a little bit of a kink when it comes to that bill that was passed by the Senate. You are hearing maybe some House members actually a little bit concerned about it, but it doesn't appear that they're probably going to make any adjustments, and most likely will pass the measure today. The market's actually expecting that to pass around 7 p.m. It sounds like at around 5 p.m. they're going to start the process on voting here, and then it'll go to President Trump. So once again, that's probably already priced in here. What you're kind of looking at for this market over the last couple of trading sessions, even when we had down days, the expansion of participation in this market, you are seeing healthcare continuing to rise to the upside here. Healthcare, I believe, is up around 7 sessions or so. If you're looking at the XLV, which is showing some promise there, you're also seeing energy catching a little bit of a bid. Now, those are smaller sectors for the S&P 500 as a whole, but you are starting to see communication services also catching a bid, with Google kind of leading the way, hitting all-time highs. So I think the market continues to try to expand as we really try to figure out what's happening in the semiconductor space. Yesterday, semiconductors, if you're looking at the stocks, down about 2%. We are seeing a little bit of a bounce today. We'll talk about that story here in a second. And maybe we start seeing maybe some bottom feeders coming into that semiconductor space just as a whole. But I think we're probably trying to set up for this holiday move, this holiday push to the upside here. You are seeing volatility move to the downside. We're sitting at around a 17 VIX, kind of that perfect environment for not only swing traders or long-term traders, but also intraday traders here. And then we could have some catalysts over the next couple of trading sessions, Diane, where we have some trade deals being announced as well. There's some chatter that Vietnam could be on the docket over the next couple of days, and maybe we see an India deal happening over the next week or so, with some comments coming from President Trump around H-1B visas here yesterday in an interview with Fox that kind of, let's say, turns around maybe their view from the White House regarding that program here. So I think there's still a lot of optimism, but maybe some of these trade deals that do hit the tape over the next week or so really carry the headlines, and we start to discount or maybe even look past the government shutdown situation.
Okay, all right, so let's get into it with AMD. So the shares are moving higher today. There was a knee-jerk reaction when you saw commentary coming off their analyst day yesterday, where you saw shares sell off a little bit, but now it feels like the market has had time to process. And listen, they said the total addressable market for this space is going to be huge. What are some of your takeaways here?
Yeah, it is going to be huge, but you're going to see them focus a little bit more on the CPU business, which is what they have been known for over the years. Obviously, the GPUs have been capturing a lot of the headlines over the last year and a half or so, but the CPU business, especially server side, actually has probably a little bit more of a tangible, addressable market as consumers can actually get involved with this AI trade here. You are seeing them actually readjust their long-term financial targets. The revenue CAGR here, they're looking for 35% over the next 3 to 5 years. Non-GAAP operating margins greater than 35%, gross margins between 55% and 58%. And you are seeing, once again, the AI data center business, they're looking at 80% compounded annual growth rate here over that time frame. And they continue to talk about the server space, but once again, focusing more on the CPUs. The market did appreciate this. We are seeing the shares higher, up about 5% in today's session so far. And maybe this gives a little bit more optimism that this trade can actually hold on for now. Obviously, there has been a concern over the last 2 weeks regarding the circular nature of these deals, but Lisa Su actually really kind of talked about the fact that they are being very diligent when it comes to the deals that they're making with a lot of these companies, but they are also acknowledging the fact that OpenAI is a big player in this space, and they are going to address that market, but they are coming off as being a little bit more responsible here when it comes to these deals, ensuring that whatever that they are inking or signing is actually going to come to fruition, and protecting themselves in order to make sure that happens, but also not extending risk. I think that's another reason why you are seeing the shares a little bit higher here, kind of just talking about the due diligence of their deal making over the next couple of years.
All right, let's talk a little bit about Oklo. It released its quarterly results yesterday. This is still a company that is pre-revenue. Shares are higher in the pre-market, but there was a miss. What's your take here on Oklo?
Yeah, look, so when you're talking about this company, it's pre-revenue, so we're not going to get a top-line number. They're obviously still working on a lot of their technology, and you're really looking at their first facility coming online 2027 or 2028 or so. The real focus is going to be the deals that they're making with the DOE and their progress when it comes to building out their operations here. There was obviously an operating loss when you're looking at the adjusted earnings per share coming in at 20 cents. Street was looking for a loss of around 13 cents here, and obviously no revenue actually being reported, but they are having a deal or having an approval from the Department of Energy here for their Aurora fuel fabrication facility. That's where they're going to build out the fuel needed for their small modular nuclear reactors here. So that's just showing additional progress within this space here. And I think you are getting some buyers to really try to step in and maybe think that over the long term, there's some optimism here. Also keep in mind as well, we are seeing some bullishness in the broader equity market as well. I think you use Oklo as well as SMR, some of these other names that were within the space as a risk on, risk off gauge. This morning we are seeing a little bit of risk on in the market here. You are seeing some buyers really stepping into this space. It's really hard to try to assess the valuation because they don't have any top line growth at all. But at the end of the day, it's a new technology. There's a lot of focus on this, and it does appear that the government is trying to support them as much as they possibly can.
Okay, yeah, that's a great point about, just I think how investors are trying to figure out how you value this. All right, let's talk about your levels today. What are your levels to the upside and the downside on the S&P 500 that you're watching out for?
Yeah, to the upside, 69.05. To the downside, 68.50 as your area of support. Once again, VIX still sitting at around 17. It's a really good environment for volatility to continue to crush to the downside. And keep your eye out on those trade deals. Once again, I mean, this could be an environment where a company like Nike that has been getting hit pretty hard actually does see some bright signs here if we do get a deal with Vietnam, if that's something that is going to be announced this week. So overall, it's still bullish in the market, and we have reclaimed a lot of the technical areas of support that we actually lost last week.
And Lululemon, too, because I know they'd outsource a lot to Vietnam in anticipation of China, but no one had really expected that effect from Vietnam. Thanks for bringing that back to the forefront. That is KG, Kevin Green, our senior markets correspondent. Appreciate the setup for today.